Well, blessings, friends, and we thank you for joining us for this edition of the Fellowship of Music and Arts as we prepare for our wonderful panel discussion today. And that discussion is going to be around the subject of rebuilding music ministry post-pandemic. And we certainly want you to start your watch parties and certainly your likes and your shares, and have your family and friends to join us right here on the Fellowship of Music and Arts Facebook page as we prepare to start the discussion. We want to apologize for being a little late. We had some technical difficulties waiting on everybody to log on, but we're here now. We're going to begin with a word of prayer. Join us if you will. Father, we thank you for this privilege, this opportunity, and we thank you for blessing us to come together as one today. We pray that you will bless and guide our hearts and our spirits, that we might be unified in one mind, one spirit, for the purpose of discussing kingdom business. And we ask your blessings upon these who have sacrificed their time and are lending their spirit, their heart, their mind, their experience, their expertise to this dialogue today. And we ask your blessing to those that shall partake, those that are going to be sharing and listening, that you will bless the hearer and give them something. Let this information impact them in some kind of way for the better. And we pray in Jesus' name, amen. Well, I am so excited. We have a distinguished panel that are going to be sharing with us. And we're going to start now with the introductions of our panelists. And we want them to one by one, starting with our own sister, Dr. Carolyn Cole, and go straight on across in that order. Introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and we'll proceed from there. Try to get up my,
okay.
There she go.
Praise the Lord, everybody. My name is Carolyn Cole, and I've been playing since the age of 10, and I'm in my 60s now. Not ashamed to say, I'm grateful to God that he's allowed me to be here this long and to serve in different capacities in the church. And I count it a privilege to be among so many great musicians and doctors and minstrels and ministers and pastors. And I just looking forward to this opportunity to share and to also learn from others that have had experiences with their work in the church under the leadership of Ministry of Music. So I'm just glad to be here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Dr. Whitsett.
Hello, and I give all praise, glory, and honor to God for this opportunity. I'm delighted to be able to sit at the table. I'm a 4-year graduate, doctoral graduate of Ecumenical Theological Seminary, where my focus was on music that speaks to the soul. And I had a defense on the impact that sacred music had or has in the African American church. I am a member proudly of Mount Pleasant Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor James Minnick, and I am the music director or vocal director at Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church E-Course. And so I'm looking forward to what we will share on today.
Thank you, thank you. Dr. Clendenny.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be on with all of you and share. I was born Baptist and the Catholic Church, where I was music director at James Church for 37 years or so. I've recently retired. I look forward to this very much. Thank you.
Brother Anthony Howard, your mic is on. You need to mute your mic because that background noise is interrupting our flow. All right, Sister.
I'm sorry, my mic was not on. It says
Brooksy Fentress.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Brooksy Fentress. I've been playing the piano. I started at the age of 4 and I also started piano lessons at that time. At the age of 5, I was progressed enough to play for the 8th grade graduation at my school. Pomp and circumstance. Anyway, I've been also blessed to have been reared in a Christian home, and my mother's sights was on my being a servant of God in the ministry of music. And I thank God for having led me that far this many years. I now serve as minister of music at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, having been in the music ministry there for 62 years. And I just hope God will keep me going on as long as he wishes to use me. And I thank whomever it was that thought of my name to include me to participate in this grand occasion today. I'm very grateful.
Amen. All right, Brother Darius Twyman.
Praise the Lord, everybody. My name is Brother Darius Twyman. First of all, let me say thank you for the invitation, Bishop. I appreciate this opportunity to sit amongst the greats, legends, and everyone who does exactly what they do and have been great contributors to the body of Christ. Been in gospel music now since the age of 10. Was the youngest member of Donald Vale Voices of Deliverance. Now I'm 51, so 41 years I've been in gospel music, and I'm just grateful to do what I do. Have recorded and written for a lot of artists across the country, and with individual records of my own. And in terms of music playing, I've been in Greater New Mount Moriah Missionary Baptist Church for the majority of my life, under initially Dr. Benjamin Lawson Hooks and now Pastor Kenneth James Flowers, where I play as a musician there, as well as Oak Grove AME. I've worked at Triumph Church for 10 years, where I did 14 services a week. And I've traveled extensively across the country, sharing the gift that God has given me. And I'm excited to be a part of the rebuilding of what gospel music is now and what it can be, because we know not the day or the hour when the Lord shall return, but we want to know and make sure that we are in position and ready for when he comes back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Vincent Sean Trent.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Vincent Trent, And first of all, I would like to thank God for the opportunity to be here and thank Dr. Howard and Dr. Woods for inviting me. I've been playing the piano since I was 5 years old. I actually performed up in the Lansing area years ago for the young adult choir at Baldwin Baptist Church. But now I do a mixture of gospel, jazz, and fusion classical music. But I'm also a medical doctor. I graduated from the Wayne State School of Medicine in 1992, and I'm currently the medical director of a lab, Vibra Troy, which does a lot of COVID testing in the metropolitan Detroit area. So it's a pleasure to be here amongst all you great leaders and musicians.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, Dr. Eloquent Weaver.
Praise the Lord, everybody. I want to first thank God for the opportunity of being here amongst all of these. I'm telling you, some of the greatest in the city of Detroit. And I want to thank also Bishop Woods for inviting me. I am Dr. Eloquent Weaver. I'm a native of Birmingham, Alabama. I moved here when I was 5 years old. Music has always been my life. My mother was an original member of Dorothy Love Coates and the Gospel Harmonettes, where she was the first musician to play before Carlton Reese. And then we moved to Detroit, Michigan, and I got into gospel music. And I've been the director for the Palestine Baptist Church for I did that 19 years along with Dr. Carolyn Cole, and then I became the director over at Obedient for 17 years, and now I am the minister of music for the Smith Chapel AME Church out in Inkster. I own We Praise Radio, and I've been the founder of the group, the Hallelujah Singers, and as of today, we celebrate 41 years of praising God in gospel music. So we recorded many things, and God afforded us to win an Emmy Award for a documentary entitled Let's Have Some Church Detroit Style. So I'm happy to be amongst all these people, some people I've looked up for many years, and again, I say thank you, Dr. Woods, for inviting me to be a part of this great panel.
Thank you, sir. Now, the one and only Pastor James Jones.
All right, thank you. How good the Lord is. I'm very humbled to be a part of this panel with so many of you that I watched grow up as a child. I guess I'm the baby on this panel, but God is good. Listen, I've been in music ministry for 32 years, and trying to preach for 23. I'm in my 16th year of pastoring our church. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm sure you probably heard of our church, Abundant Life, which was named Williams Chapel Missionary Baptist Church. Our church, we people don't know, but our church has a rich musical history. We started recording albums back in the late 50s with the first album that was produced by my grandmother, Dr. Nellie Williams, entitled The Jericho Road. And I started trying to list all the albums we actually recorded, from the Jericho Road all the way down to The Wedding and different things like that. And I was privileged to start very young. Elder Herman Harris laid his hands on me and really crafted me into who I am. Herman Harris, Brother Henry Gant, who was a part of the Detroit Harmoniers, Roger Wachowski, Herbert Nicholson, and God has been good. I come from that group that we were doing 2 or 3 concerts a year, 5-6 hour rehearsals. I was playing for 7 choirs. I mean, I come from that, and I've watched a lot of things, seen a lot of things, but I thank God that the Lord has afforded me to continue, even in pastoring, to have a record company and still writing music, cutting albums and different things like that. And I want to thank Bishop Woods for inviting me to this panel. I feel kind of honored, you know. But I just look forward to this discussion and seeing what the Lord is going to do for us, because that is the most important thing out of this dialogue. We have our thoughts, our plans, our opinions, but at the end of the day, you know, we've got to see what God is going to do. Sister Fentress, good to see you. Good to see you. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. At this time, we're going to move forward with our time of questions with our panel. And we want to ask Brother Howard and Brother McClare is going to start with our panel discussion.
Okay, I'm going to direct this question to Carl Clendenning, though others can contribute after he's finished. And let us all remember that to be sensitive to our time when we are speaking. The question is, how relevant today is the church calendar and the lectionary in our churches?
Unmute yourself.
I thought I did.
No, Mr.
All
Carl.
right. Thank you.
There you go.
It can be both a blessing and a curse. It gives a direction, and it gives a unity to the whole planning process. Now, the curse is when the lectionary is going one way and your spirit is being led another. And hopefully you have a pastor who will trust the spirit in you. And that's been my experience.
So what about the church calendar? Is it important that we respect the church calendar in our worship services?
I think, well, you know, I come from a liturgical church, so it makes sense to me. The seasons focus on different times in the life of Christ. And again, it just serves to direct our attention.
Okay, so anyone else that wishes to share in this?
Well, I will add as a pastor, you know, when we think about the relevancy of the church calendar, that calendar helps to keep us balanced, help to keep us goal focused, where we do things in season. We know seasons change, but it'll help us with balance. And then with having the responsibility of raising another generation of musicians and directors, it allows us to give them patterns, policies, procedures on how to really structure the music department so that your music department is not all over the place. I'm pretty sure on the first Sunday, the majority of pastors are going to be preaching about the resurrection of Christ. And it would make sense musically in our preparation that the majority of our music is centered around the resurrection of Christ. So the church calendar is relevant. It is relevant. It is important. It's not relevant to the point that we sit up and debate, was Jesus born on the 25th or was he in the summer? And none of that is, all that matters is we know he was born. We know he was born. So, but the calendar is important, but not for the sake of debating to the point that it brings about a negative spirit. At the end of the day, all we know is Christ was born, Christ is alive, and Christ is coming back. So that calendar is important, and it keeps us balanced, keep us goal-oriented and structured.
I'd like to add to that too.
Thank you.
I'm reminded, you know, where there's no vision, the people perish. And a lot of times the liturgical calendar, the Lord's calendar, sort of keeps us structured. It gives, as was already said, it gives us an opportunity to move together. Because so many times we're so divided in so many other areas, you know, doctrinal, or the day we worship, the time we worship, everything is divided. But when we get to the liturgical calendar, the Christian calendar, it allows us to move globally. The body moves together and we say the same thing. So I think it is important for church and music ministry.
Okay.
I would like to add too, just to say that I think it's very important because those two particular dates of the liturgical calendar and the Christian calendar, two most important ones to me is the time of Advent leading up to Easter, and also the time leading up to Christmas. And I think those points should really be stressed for the growing all Christians. And in the church with the music, we can help to do that by concentrating on the meaning of those events. Get one's mind in tune to what it really meant to have had Jesus born. Like you said, whether it was on the 25th of December, or the 8th of July, the fact that he was born is what's important. And I think that should be kept up front in the minds of Christians, as well as the time that God saw fit to send Jesus to this earth, that he might die, be buried and risen again, that he might save our souls. And I think it's important to keep that up front in the minds of Christians.
Thank you. And you said something pretty interesting, Carl, that it is true when following a lectionary, sometimes your spirit is pulled in different directions, even though you will follow what you're supposed to follow, but your mind sometimes, your spirit is sometimes pulled in a different direction because the pastor may shift gears in the middle of the sermon. And you can complement his music very differently than what the lectionary may dictate. I have a very good book that was by the African-American Heritage Hymnal people that is a very good lectionary for the African-American church. Okay, we're gonna move on. Is there anyone else that wishes to comment on that, on those two subjects? If there isn't, we're going to move on. This is about COVID, and this is directed to Dr. Trent. Dr. Trent, how much a danger is the choir in this COVID era? How important is it that we really protect the choir from the possibility of spreading this disease and the musicians?
Thank you for that question, Dr. Howard. As you guys know, as everybody knows, we're in a pandemic, and this coronavirus, this COVID virus, is extremely contagious. It's much more contagious than the regular flu. And it's extremely imperative that choirs and large gatherings or large groups be minimized as much as possible. So that means that one person that may have or may carry the disease can transmit it to 40 different people at the same time.
Wow.
So it is imperative that large groups be at this particular time, they're not, it's not a good idea. So I don't recommend there being any large choir or gatherings during this particular time. Now that we have a vaccine that is being implemented, down the line, I think we'll be able to gather without the fear of infecting one another, but still social distancing and protecting one another with masks and properly, sanitizing hands and hygiene conscientiousness would be still in order. Hopefully I answered it completely.
So we know that many of our churches have choirs and have praise teams, and some of our churches have bands. For instance, sometimes I wonder, because as a pianist, oftentimes as a trumpet, I got playing the trumpet behind me, and I'm wondering, is he shooting droplets? And how much at risk am I if he's behind me playing that trumpet? Are the safeguards that we can put in place to kind of safeguard against the spread of this virus amongst our either praise group or limited number choir?
I'll give you an example. Back in December, I did a show, but it was a live stream show where there was no audience, and I only allowed maybe 4 to 5 musicians on the stage with me, and we all were still in had protective gear on.
Okay.
So, small groups that are protected, proper, doing proper hand washing and wearing masks, that can be permitted up to a certain degree, but large choirs and many musicians on the stage at one time is highly discouraged, especially right now, until we have more people that are vaccinated and the distribution of the vaccination is equally amongst all the communities. Because even if one area might be well vaccinated or well protected, you still have hot spots that come up with people who may not be practicing, social distancing or practicing proper hand washing and all that. So you have hot spots that bring up, and eventually those people can move into those areas and spread the disease. So right now it's highly discouraged. Small groups of musicians or singers, 4 to 5, and I don't discourage large choir groups.
Can you ask the doctor for some
Okay.
pain medication? What?
Your nurse?
Yes.
Okay, I'll get
So-
Hi, I had a question. I'm sorry, I was talking to my aide, but I had a question. I don't want to sound like a Trump with the bleach thing, and it might sound crazy, but when this pandemic first came up, and I was thinking about how would the choirs return, because when they were first discussing, what was going to have to be necessary against choir singing, I thought in my mind, and it might sound crazy to people, but what if you had choir members spaced out in the congregation, and as they get ready to sing, they come out into the aisles, and maybe you can space some still in the choir stand with the mics, but have them, and some of our churches are large enough where they could be spaced out, our choir members could be spaced out in the aisles of the church. And would that be an option for those of us that, I'm gonna bring my pain pills?
Oh, I'm not gonna hurt.
Okay, tell them. I'm sorry, I'm in a facility. But I just thought that might be an option. Thank you.
Dr. Cole, when you say that, are you saying in addition to having the congregation or an audience present?
Yeah, and I know, okay, I see you'd answer my question.
No, that's not a good idea. There is so much that has to be put into place for that to be effective. You have to make sure people are at least screened, make sure their temperatures are normal and all that. There's so many layers of prevention that you have to put into place. And right now, it's not really strongly discouraged. And then think about all of the aftermath where you have to, clean up and sanitize and make sure things are, spick and span, as we say. So it's just best that right now we continue to not congregate in large groups.
And it was just a thought. I mean, I was trying to,
and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Because you never know until you ask somebody that's their expertise. And thank you. That answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Dr. Okay, go ahead, Brother Twyman.
Okay, I just wanted to kind of interject. I was having worked with large ministries as well as small ministries and looking at the landscape of the sanctuary now, for example, you can have Pastor Jones has gutted his entire choir stand, and everybody is kind of like in an oval shaped situation. So I was thinking in terms of a orchestra style setup for the choir, in terms of having individual sound booth like you box off your drummer. And then there would just be a microphone setting above everyone's head. But they would, and when you walk in, everybody will walk into their individual slots like that. And then you can have a choir and it be mic'd, and then no droplets would be coming out because you would actually be enclosed. And I was thinking of that when I saw one of the questions saying, well, what's the church going to look like now? It's going to look like a spaceship, because in order for everybody to be safe, that's what we're going to have to do, unless we're going to walk around with those headgears things on with the thing in the back and then be mic'd like that, because some people just hard-headed. I mean, churches, I mean, I looked up today and churches were full. They just felt like, you know, and I'm sitting there looking at them like, why are all these people in the sanctuary? They just I'm believing God. Okay. And we're just not, you know, in terms of the social distancing, and even with my fraternity and things like that, we just feel like we the Qs and we're invincible. Church folk feel like we're invincible. Like I've waited long enough and I have enough. So my question, Dr. Trent, is that if I've had COVID, can I catch it again?
Yes,
if I
you
have
can.
Okay,
Yes,
so
you
even if I haven't had the vaccine, so I'm still susceptible, but I got about a 90-day window. This is what the myth is for the choir members I'm running into. Oh, I just had it in January, so I'm good until May. So I can come to choir rehearsal. Those are the conversations I'm hearing. So can you kind of
Yeah, I can kind of expound on that. Actually, I have experience in the lab where I worked where folks have had the you know, infection, had the virus, had mild symptoms, you know, maybe a slight increase in temperature, you know, maybe cough, whatever. And then 3 to 4 months later, they come down with a real fulminant respiratory infection to the point where, you know, they're on a ventilator. It's very rare, but it does occur. Actually, one of the first cases that happened was a young man who was out in the forest or out hiking, you know, brought it back to his family, recovered from it. Like I said, had mild symptoms, but then the second time he was in the hospital. So it, you know, it came back like with a vengeance kind of thing. And this kind of thing is becoming a little bit more common now because we're having, of course, more infectious people that are being infected during a long period of time. But yeah, it's possible to get a
so that gated
secondary
situation
infection.
that I said won't work? You don't think that works for the individual?
That individual spaceship thing sounds, you know, very clever. That's a lot of work. I mean, it's possible, but you really, like I said, there's a whole lot of layers of prevention that you have to put in to do that. Yeah, and I know places that have opened where they have gutted out areas just so people can congregate. I mean, theoretically, I guess it's a possibility. But like I said, you still have to have the same layers of protection, or the same layers of at least screening, to make sure that, you know, people do not cross-contaminate or infect one another, because you never know. You just never know.
Thank you so much.
And that was a good question, Darius, because that was something that I was going to lead into. Is if you have, I wasn't going to go to the extent of a choir. I was looking at a praise team, maybe have them in partitioned off areas, encased in the plexiglass or whatever. But let me say, what we do at my church, we started off with just the pulpit and the musicians, and we would go live on Facebook. And now we are allowing 30% of the congregation to return. We're doing it in stages. We have every other pew roped off so that we are forcing people to spread out. We use one person right now to lead the congregation in its music. So, and of course we have on mass and those things, but we have one person that leads the congregation, and we do intend to bring a praise team back or something back, but right now we're being very cautious. So that's an idea.
Dr. Howard, may I also add, you should, as part of your protocol, make sure that there's certain questions that are asked if people have, increased temperature, or have they had any flu-like or coughing, lately within the last few days. And if they answer yes to any of those, then of course they need to, go home and, sit down and quarantine for about, 10 days, 10 to 14 days.
Okay.
Until they feel better. Before they come back to choir rehearsal.
But we got to move on, though.
Okay, can I ask one last question? What if a lot of the churches are already doing this? What if they continue with doing the choir Zoom type of situation until this pandemic gets better? I mean, that's at least safer. I know it does not give the same effect, but you're talking about the safety of everybody. And I don't particularly like the Zoom, but right now there's going to have to be ways of trying to find some kind of new normalcy until this thing, gets to where it can be, taken care of. But that's just a thought. I mean, some of the churches are doing that anyway already. Mm-hmm. So would it be bad to have the congregation in there and you say, okay, well, the choir is coming for a selection and just take it to the screens? We use the screens for all other things anyway. So, and you go in with the knowledge that you have to, the biggest thing is that you're trying to have safety. It's for safety purposes. Nobody wants to do it that way, but for right now, that's all I'm asking.
You mean utilizing Zoom right now for currently?
Yeah, for choirs or groups or however you're going to do it.
I mean, it's a difficult thing to do, but for right now, that's probably
but some churches are already doing it in their services that they're streaming. Right. And why not, if it's working for them right now? And I mean, it's not the most logical way, maybe, but maybe it's the logical way. It's not the most convenient way that you want to do it. But again, everything is dealing with our safety.
That's the bottom line. Yeah.
Well, I know that we have to move on. I want to conclude by saying that, yes, we have heard snapshots of what the church may look like in the future with different ways of conducting services, different ways of using our music ministries. Thank you, Dr. Trent. Thank you, Dr. Clendenning. Bishop. Bishop Woods, I send it back to you.
All right, everyone. To our distinguished panel, it's so wonderful being a part of this and serving as moderator. I want to ask you a question concerning music content, and it's a post-pandemic question. Once we get back into our churches or what have you, we know that a lot of things have changed. Want to address this to our ministers of musics and directors, which is predominantly all of the panel. Are hymns and anthems and spirituals gone from the church? And the B part of the question is, and why don't we sing them? Are hymns, anthems, and spirituals gone from the church? And why don't we sing them? So anyone can jump right in on this particular question.
We do sing them. Yes, we do sing them. And as long as whomever is at the helm of a thing, has the heart, the mandate to move it forward. And so we have to remember that some things that brought us over, we still need to hang on to, because the hymns are the things that point us to him. They point us to the Savior. That's what hymns are for. Anthems are chorded and full and balanced and used for celebrational times. And so there are points and periods when we can use everything in the church. What we as minstrels have to do is be creative with how we present it. A lot of times it's in how we present a thing that the choir members or praise team, they don't want to engage in it because of how we present it. But there's a backstory to everything, and we can tell the story and give it life in order to keep it moving on.
Exactly. Anyone else just jump right in on that particular question? Brooksy, I know that in Dexter, they have a rich heritage. My aunt used to belong there years ago. Used to sing the gamut of songs in church. Brooksy, do you want to comment on that in any way?
Yes, I do. Yes, and I must say, we do still sing the anthems, hymns, spirituals, gospels, the upbeats, the downbeats. And I say, as you have to coordinate a mixture of all of it. And I believe if we're going to function according to God's word, we will keep the choir members, young ones and old ones, knowing that the word requires hymns, anthems, spiritual songs. And I think there is a way to intertwine them. And I'm just going to say this and be quick about it. I'll never forget some years back when I thought I had a pretty good youth and young adult choir at Dexter Avenue. And they were, as you know, interested in just the gospel, upbeat gospel singing. And I thought of a way to try to get them to accept the fact that they need to learn it all. And I convinced them that the better you learn to sing an anthem or well-arranged of music, whether it's an anthem or an arranged spiritual or even an arranged hymn, the better you're going to be at singing those gospels. So I convinced them, and they learned Psalms 150 to the point of being able to even do it a cappella. And I'm proud to say they did it well. And they were so proud of themselves after having learned that they could really do it and do it well, that I didn't have any more trouble with them. I didn't force it on them that much, but every now and then they had to come through with an anthem, and no more problem after that for a while. But I think we should keep it going.
I would love to chime in on this one.
Yes, sir. By all
I
means.
may.
Absolutely.
You know, when I listen to the question, are hymns, anthems, and spirituals gone from the church? Now, one thing I do want to make clear is that, you know, coming up musically, I had to learn how to play hymns and anthems and spirituals. I had to learn it because in that particular era, that was the leading piece of music that was moving our churches. And you know, I'm a student. I am a student, and to learn a thing, I have to always question a thing, because somehow we got to the point where God has gifted us with things, but and I'm not to say this is on this panel, but in the general, it seems as though we're slow to creating. Mm-hmm. When I look at authors, composers of those hymns and anthems, they lived in a certain time span. But I'm also astute to know that there were conductors before they came along. And all of these people are gone, and they have gifts and abilities. But now we're living in an era as well when the scripture says, sing unto him a new song. And then when it says sing hymns, I would often challenge it, because when I look at a hymn book, I discovered hymn books are published from different conventions. And I questioned, I said, well, who's to say what is a hymn and what is not a hymn? You know, now our National Baptist Convention released brand new hymn books, and we got new people in there, you know, such as Richard Smallwood, Fred Hammond, Kurt Franklin. Okay, so now there's a board put together who determines what's a hymn and not a hymn. And as a songwriter, I said, Lord, you know, okay, would my songs that I write be considered hymns? Would they be considered anthems per you, God? Because what I noticed, what moves our ministry is that the fresh music that we write and create per the word of God. And I looked at our congregation, very balanced congregation. I love the hymns, Lord knows. You know, those hymns give me some good pointers in my message. A lot of preachers, you know, preach about those stories, those hymns. But there is more to it, because now we have the younger artists, the younger musicians, who unfortunately did not come up like I came up. They didn't have the privilege of having to sit down to learn the hymns. And we can't fault them for not knowing what they were not taught. But now with their gifting, because every last one of us have been created, we're containers of God's glory. We have gifts and abilities. And it might be a possibility that God has left us here and he's birthing new people in this world for us to create hymns and anthems and spirituals. What's that song, that fresh new song that's getting us through this pandemic? You know, these songs that were birthed in a slavery, you know, what are we birthing now that will be used as a state of hymns and spirituals? And I'm just, you know, and I love them all. I love music. I love jazz. I do all of it. But, you know, when it gets to that challenge of saying, okay, why don't we sing them? We do sing them.
They can't.
Can I chime in when you finish?
Yes.
When you finish.
Now, the question, why don't we sing them? We do sing them. This is my thought. But the question is, do you consider it a hymn, an anthem, a spiritual? The songs that we do sing, that we do write, that we do produce for such a time as this.
Carolyn and Darius.
May I just say on this, and LaQuint knows, I love hymns. I can't play anthems, but I love anthems. I learned to love anthems during my time at Harvard. Growing up as a kid, I'm a Kojic baby. My church was directly across Cannon Corner from Harvard Memorial Baptist. As a kid, in the hot summertime, of course, our windows were open. So between services, we would run to the candy store. And of course, you could hear the anthem sung. And I say, oh my God, what is that? You know, and vice versa. My friends from Harvard would say, well, we would hear you all over there with the tambourines and drums. And as I got older and mature, two things happened. One thing happened first, my mother and I were having a conversation, and she was saying, oh, they don't sing the old songs anymore. And I said to my mother, I said, well, why is that, Mom? I say, I wasn't here, as the pastor had just made statement of, it reminded me of that. I said, I wasn't here, so I can't be responsible for what happened before I got here. But I will say this to you. If you all stop singing them and we don't hear them and we don't apply them, that's you all's fault. But on that other side of that coin, if you all sing them and we reject them, that's our fault. All of that is our heritage. And we should never forget the boat or whatever that brought us over. Right. And this is the other thing I like about saying, let's keep the hymns, the anthems, the spirituals, the gospels, traditional, contemporary, urban, whatever, all of it, even rap, everything has its place. But this is the thing I mainly want to say, and I'm gonna turn over to somebody else. We have to also remember And I'm going to use this song, and no disrespect to Kirk Franklin. I remember doing a concert with some young people, and I said to the young people, there are older people that's going to attend your concert. They don't want to see you shaking your behind and singing stump. That will not relate to them. But if you sing a hymn, they can relate to that. So what am I saying? Everybody in a service ought to go from that service being fed not just by the spoken word, but by the music. I might not like to hear anthems, or I might like to hear anthems, but the person next to me might want to hear something contemporary or whatever. And what I'm saying is, let's treat it like it's a course meal. Your mother didn't sit down. My mama didn't let me. I love chocolate cake, but she didn't let me sit down and just eat chocolate cake, chocolate cake. I had to have a balanced meal. And so in our churches, we need to have balance because everybody is not on the same page. And we know that. And if all of us will, kids, starting with our kids, because it starts from the cradle up. There's little anthems and little spirituals that the kids can sing, and it'll grow in them, and it'll be much better. That's my feeling.
Darius, we saw you. Thank you, Carol. And thank you, Pastor Jones. And Dr. Whitsett. Darius, I saw your hand up, man. Is there something that you want to?
Yeah, I just want to say real quick. Okay, quick background. Went to Central High School, and so I had an opportunity to sit up under individuals like Dr. Joyce Jackson and Shirley Norwood. Prior to that, Jack Folsom, and then prior to that, Frank Eugene White. So I had a chance to get balance from all of them, as well as, you know, Reverend Bales and everybody else. And I was able to go away to school on a full music scholarship where I was trained to read music in terms of sightseeing. And so when I came back home, I could pick up a hymnal and sightsee it well enough to read it and play it. But this is the honest to God's truth. I was at church today, and it was one hymnal in the whole church. It was
Wow.
And so when you say, do we sing them? They're not in position to necessarily sing them. And then when we do sing them, I was watching Facebook the other day and saw one of my play nephews, and he was playing at a funeral, and he was playing, they call off chords now, hit the 1, hit the 3, hit the 5. You don't know it's a B flat minor, or they can't tell you what it is. They just know it's the 1, the 3, the 5. They can't tell you how many beats on the rest and all that. They have no idea. But they can tell you that everything is math. And so with that, we've lost the heritage of hymns. I would be rejoicing in my spirit when I would go to a St. James concert, because I knew the opening song was going to be a hymn.
Yeah.
JD always stood up and said the hymn of the evening. So we knew we were going to get balance. Then I'm hearing, didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? You got a spiritual. Then you might hear Hospital Depot Millowy or Let Mount Zion Rejoice. And then we're going to go to church from what we said. But we don't have those legends in place anymore, or you're there and because we've lost that connection with them, because, you know, they don't want to hear what we have to say. I put my hand on a musician's shoulder this morning, and we were talking. I said, Doc, you don't know nothing about that. And he said, do me a favor. Next time, don't tell me what I don't know. Teach me. I appreciated him checking me, but then I checked him back because I didn't appreciate him checking me. You know what I'm saying? At the same time. You know what I'm saying? But I could appreciate that. And I said, you know what? It is up to me to say, hey, let's look at this. Don't just play in C. I need you to go to C, to D, to E, even though I can't play in E, but I want to push them to do that. So the hymns and the spirituals, and let's get beyond the first verse.
Yeah.
Everybody can sing Pass Me Not, O General Savior. They can't go to the second verse or the third verse or the fourth verse. You know what I'm saying? And they don't know how to read a hymnal. They don't know it go from 1 ... You put a kid in front of it now, they gonna read all 1, 2, 3, 4, because we haven't taught them. And so I think it's really important, not just you all, because Bishop Woods, they passed it down to us. My generation, and I can say it, my generation was my brother Oscar Hayes, Michael Mendengar, Derek Milan, Tolan Morgan, Chris Jones. That was us, Daryl Houston. We kind of dropped the ball in the middle. And now we're trying to find the ball to pass it on. But they're in a whole nother realm of music right now that they're not trying to hear what is being said. It's one-liners with 4 chords, and that's it. And so when you go to church, I close my eyes and they done sung 5 songs and I'm thinking they on the same song because everything sounds the same now. And there's no diversity in the church. And then at the same time, the pastor holds us accountable for new music, but then they preaching the same sermon every other month that I just heard. But you want me to bring 5 new songs every Sunday. And so with that being said, there has to be some balance amongst the whole thing. Don't make me the magician in the church. That when I get on the organ, you want me to strike the match, and then the fire is set, and then you feel like, oh, you got too much play today. I got to bring this back down. And then I get checked after service, and you tell me, hey, you know, too much shine. I know I didn't turn the corner. I'm in a whole nother thing. That's what happens in terms of no balance in the church, and it comes from the music. And then we're used as the fundraiser. That's a whole nother thing. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm done. Amen.
Appreciate all of you guys.
I need to chime in on that.
Okay, Bishop.
It's sad that we have to look at it that way, but based on what Pastor Jones brought up about the music is, I myself challenge myself. I've written 2 anthems. They haven't been really published or heard worldwide, but I come from a background in a culture where when we did concerts, people come to a Detroit concert, they want to hear original music. They don't want to hear top 40.
Amen.
And that's how we were groomed and trained. So when I did the Donald Vales, Carol and I, Daryl, we did the Donald Vales reunion concert. Donald came back. The last things we did at Ford Auditorium, I challenged myself to write an anthem, He Came from Glory. We did that anthem. And then I wrote another anthem during my tenure at the Galilee. And I wrote some hymns. And so I'm with you, Pastor Jones. What do these, those that put together the hymnals, how do they decide what the anthem is, what songs are not? But when we talk about anthems, you got to understand this. We're looking for songs that will have longevity, because when you listen to the radio and you listen to the internet now, a lot of those songs, they come and go. And I believe that's because the industry have tricked our artists in to producing mass music too fast. And the reason why I didn't get a major distribution deal contract, because I refused to do it. And when I had chosen, we lived off one album for almost 10 years before I did another one. We traveled, we toured, because when you write songs like that in your productions, Darius and Pastor Jones and those of you that are writers, Denard, you understand what I'm talking about. There's more than one hit on your CD. When the DJs get it, they focus on one song, Dr. Weaver, and they play that song in rotation. And some of them are smart enough to go back and notice that there's something else on that project that's worth listening to. And when the general audience hear it, they think you've dropped another project. No, it's on the same project of the other song. And there are 4 or 5 more other hits on there if they just play them or listen to them. But what has happened in the marketplace, the network stations and these companies making so much money off of us now, until they've driven the market in such a way that if the church is not careful, you'll be listening to the dictates of Billboard and the market and the network stations telling you your church is not relevant unless you sing top 40. Well, James Jones writes his own music. Darius Twyman writes his own music. His choir sang original stuff at their church. Denard, you insert original music along with some of everybody. I don't mind doing Ricky Dillard and Hezekiah Walker, but Andre Woods, I got a red book full of songs that I can do at my own church. And that's what we're known for. And everybody don't have that privilege and gift. But I'm just saying that I think we cut our nose off to spite our face when we don't push forward our own music. And then at the same time, what Darius was talking about, Yes, we've got some pastors who are just not there and don't understand the purpose of a real minister of music, and they come to help and to aid the music ministry, and they have this fight. Like he said, that's a whole nother panel for a whole nother day. But our minstrels and ministers of music are in this city for whatever reason being limited because there are some who want to learn from us and there are some who don't want to learn from us. But like I said, I can only commit myself. I can't do it for nobody else to avail myself to teach and to train if they want it. And we can
Right.
move on.
Thank you, panel. Thank you, panel. And Bishop for that. We're going to address this next question to Dr. LaQuint Weaver, and then we want the whole panel to elaborate as well. And again, this is a post-pandemic question. Is there competition and conflict between the praise team and church choir? Is there potential competition and conflict between the praise team and church choir? Dr. LaQuint Weaver.
Wow, you would give me that question, wouldn't you?
We know you're the right one to handle it, Doc.
And the answer is yes. Personally, yes, it is. I think what has happened is we didn't mean to do this, but in the praise team, well, I'll put it to you like this. I came from out of a community choir, and they were the Donaldville's Voices of Deliverance, 350 voices strong. If Donald and myself and William Remsen led a song entitled What a Wonderful Savior I Found as a trio, which could have been considered praise team, group, whatever. After we finished singing that song, we returned back where? To the choir stand. Regardless to the fact on how well we sung, we still went back to the foundation on where we started. I think what happened was ministers of music, our newer ones, were given the privilege to pull certain people out to sing, to represent, possibly when the choir wasn't able to attend a program with pastor. It exploded. Now the big head has come to the good members that can sing a little bit, because we haven't heard the best singers, because the best singers, we ain't with to see them, it's upstairs, okay? But then within their mind, they are the greatest in that era, in your church choir. You got them in your church choir, because I got them. Okay, some folks just think that you give them a song and they just sung and the folks didn't applaud it. There's a new Mahalia Jackson, the new Karen Clark, or whomever else that's out that's going now, the Leandra Johnson or Fred Hammond, they know it, okay? But we weren't raised like that. We were raised to go back and sing with the rest of the peers. So you got a choir full of people that were singing, and then you got the praise team. And the praise team has even gotten to the point where they don't even want to sing with the choir anymore.
Amen.
Okay, you can't do that. You know, this is what I'm saying. We're taking away, again, maybe the conductors and ministers of music are not aware that the choir members of the praise team are doing that. But choir members are being offended by this, okay? So it causes a competition. I've even heard some people say these words, oh no, I don't sing with the choir anymore, I'm with the praise team. Duh, but didn't you used to sing with us? Yes, that's not good to say, because that starts that competition right there. You know, it really does. So, personally speaking, I say, yes, it's a competition, you know, because you don't want to go back in that choir stand and sing with the rest of your people. And that's where you came from. And it's just like Carolyn Cole say, you know, remember where you come from, okay? And I do want to say this right quickly, and I'm going to move out the way. When I was young and I sung, and I thank God for the Donald Raymond Vales, we need to get back to those hymns, spirituals, and all of that stuff. I miss it, okay? I didn't like it. Carol Cole will tell you, at the age of 18 years old, up under Palestine Youth Minister Music, I want to sing everything that was by Walter Hawkins that came out. But I thank Carol Cole for teaching me. And my family, my mama sung with the Dorothy Love Cole Simonette, so She's a musician too. So that was just me. But I think thank God Carol Cole for teaching me a hymn called Somebody Sought Me. Now, if I say somebody sought me to some of these popular musicians right now, guess what they're going to say to me? What is that? You know, God will take care of you. I know the first verse, okay? Like everybody that does Tears So Sweet, they don't know that second, third verse. They don't want to know it. You know, and like Bishop would say, I'm here to offer it. I'm sure many of you are sitting right here. You're ready to offer that to our young people. They're in that mind frame. We don't want it. Okay? So we can't force to you what you don't want. That's the same way we go back to the praise team. They don't want to sing with the choir. They have arrived. Okay? And it's not about you arriving. It's about singing the song together. Because I don't think that there'll be a praise team upstairs. I don't know what God's plan is. But to my judgment, I think we're going to all sing together.
Amen.
That's what I'm thinking we're going to do. We're going to all sing together. You know what I mean? And so this is what's happening. And it's our younger, nothing wrong with our younger generation. I love them. I hear them, you know, but they need to be taught. You know, matter of fact, we were kind of forced to be taught, because every service, when you open up in everybody's church, there was the morning hymn. Okay, there was the Lord's Prayer. Whether you could sing it like St. James or at St. James, whatever. Those were traditional things that need to be that are gone now. You know what I'm saying? And this is why they don't know it, because it's been removed from the program now, you know. And we as older folks, we ain't got time to fight with these young folks over that. We take pills to get up and pills to lay down. And when you see that boy, you ain't got time to keep arguing with them. I'm glad to see you in church. But, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I could say, you know, but yes, there is a competition for me between the praise team and the choir. I like to see them come together, and then after they sing their little song, go back in the choir stand and help the tenors, the altos, and sopranos. They need you.
Thank you, Dr. LaQuinn. Well put. Is there anybody else that would like to elaborate on that particular question about competition between the praise team and choir and conflict?
Brother moderator, I would chime in on this piece again. And you know,
please, Pat.
I'm 42 years old, and I'm almost in the middle of the thing. You know, I don't know where Darius and them dropped the ball. He talking about that they dropped the ball, that he's calling them, but I was right up under y'all. And you know, listening to the argument, and I hear Dr. Weaver, I respect everybody, but it seems to me our challenge is more on method than the message. Now, when we biblically so look at this thing, in 2 Chronicles chapter 20, there was a major issue going on. And this is where we discovered praise singers who were appointed. And that reference is in 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 21. And they appointed singers. When you study the word of God, I don't think when you get to the word choir that's mentioned, that's in Revelation. That's in heaven. And so we're challenged more on method versus message. Now, if we look at the history of church, the history of music, the history of church, there had to be a time where praise singers were relevant before choirs even came on, because it's in this word, it's in this Bible. And we have to hermeneutically look at this thing to be able to discover, okay, in our generation, when our generation came along, Tommy Dorsey and everybody, I mean, that's the choirs exploding. The world, that was not the beginning of the world. That was not the beginning of the word. That was a season. And one of the things that really frustrates me, even as a pastor who come out of a traditional church. Williams Chapel was one of the most traditional churches here in the city. And it was not until my grandfather really started, hey, you got to teach it, got to preach it. And I taught it per the word of God. I remember when I first introduced a praise team to the church, you know, hell almost wanted to break loose. And I had to teach, I had to challenge, like, y'all got to wait a minute. You're causing a problem to something that's biblical, which means at the end of the day, has God really been pleased with what we've been producing? You know, now we're in a season all over again where our church choirs were shut down. Why are you arguing about the praise team? Why are you arguing about the choir? Does that bring God any glory? I understand. We all been part of the choir. We've all been part. I love choir music. Lord have mercy. But when your focus is on this and only this, listen, anything too far to the right or too far to the left is heresy. It's all about balance. And so what I had to do in order to keep peace in the church, because I know Satan, Lucifer, he was the minister of music in heaven. You know, he convinced angels to turn against God. War broke out in heaven. So if we know if war break out in heaven, war break out in church. But I said, hold on, wait. Now, I had to teach this thing. And a lot of times, the reason why that competitive spirit comes, the conflict comes, is because we have not really taught scripturally where this comes from. You know, when we first got drums in the church, you know, folks was thinking we were going to hell, because for so many years, my grandfather would not let drums come in the church. And it was not until the late 80s. Our first albums, they didn't have drums on them. And that was in the 60s, not until the 80s. But we had to teach that thing. I had to start teaching that when Psalms 150, that thing wasn't just printed when we showed up. That thing has been there. This whole Bible has been there. And if we're going to be, and that's what I'm dealing with now, the church, trying to keep that balance from folk who used to sing in the choir and you sing on praise team. I don't even have a praise team, right? That praise team, not even singing. What's keeping our ministry afloat is what I call the frontline singers. These people, again, that I pulled out, I appointed them per their spirituality, their respect for God, their Christian conduct. And I said, because we're in the middle of a crazy situation. And I just got a feeling if we can, from the church, if we can get this praise right, it might be a possibility what God did in 2 Chronicles chapter 20, he can do it again here in 2020 at that time. If we can get this praise right and really lift up God, maybe that thing will cause God to squash coronavirus, because God in Psalms 22 says God inhabits the praises of his people. And so it have to always come from a teaching component versus our strategies, our tradition, our methods. And we know in every generation, methods change, but the message remains the same. So we have to make sure our argument is not so much on the method, but is the message there? And then do we have scriptural reference to give us a pattern for our conversation, a pattern for our argument? And, you know, again, like I'm in the middle. I hear the young people, I hear the seasoned, I also hear God. And the job for us to do is bring them all together to create a sound that will be in heaven, where we're going to be doing this all day, all long. But, you know, it's a matter of just taking these scriptures and applying them where the scripture says play and sing skillfully. I put it this way, and I'll be done. When I was teaching about the choir praise team, and I looked at that thing, I said, now I appointed some praise singers who I know are gifted enough to sing on their own, and with the intent of creating a certain sound. I was doing that on purpose. Now I said, now I got a big old choir here. Now a lot of you cannot do what these others are doing, but you know, I can put you here where the scripture says, make a joyful noise. Noise doesn't have a certain key. Noise is noise. But then there's another time where it says sing and play skillfully. So these are two different categories. And the only way we're really going to get that thing is to teach it. Your choirs will be all right if we teach it per the word of the Lord. Your praise teams will be all right if you teach it per the word of the Lord and believe, and don't come in with a fierce anger. Again, I'm in the middle. I love some choir music and also love praise singers. I like soloists. I like it all. But we have to have that common balance, and be able to teach it. Be able to teach it per the word of God, because these young people are like, nah, show it to me in the Bible. Show it to me in the Bible. Then we're willing to make those adjustments.
That's right. I love it. I'm just chomping at the bit. Can I get in?
Okay.
All right.
I just want to say this real quick. When you ask me the question between the competition between the two, that's what I was answering on. There is it. If we have more pastors like Pastor Jones that's open to both of those, then maybe I can see it. So I understood, Pastor, what you were saying scripturally, because Rem Andrew Akins would be on me if I wasn't right, but I was answering the question, which was there a competition? And from what I'm hearing from both sides at age 61, I hear my 21s, and I hear my 40-somethings, and I hear my 50-somethings will say what they're saying. So that's what I was answering to that question. Yes, I still say there is a competition between the two. Now, how we got to fix it is the way that Pastor is saying. We got to fix it. And you got to have some people in here. That's just what I'm saying. When Carolyn Cole was Minister of Music to Dr. Samuel Ward Jr., they worked together and they locked in. So she had to move at his command, and she understood the protocol of the service in that day. Okay, so the day has changed. I don't think a lot of these young ministers, they are locking in into their pastor, to what's happening, and what I'm saying, and then maybe some of them just really just enjoy the praise and worship music. But you asked me the question, was there a competition? Yes, because I've heard the praise singers say, and I've heard the choir say, and there is a competition.
Thank you, Dr. Weaver, and thank you, Pastor Jones. Dr. Kim, I think you wanted to elaborate real quickly.
Yes, very quickly. I'm just chomping at the bits because I'm like you, Dr. LeQuint. Yes, there is, a sense of competition. But I hear Pastor Jones, and I'm reminded of my pastor and those that I serve as pastor. They do just what he said. Our pastor, Pastor Minnick, he allows us to, or he instructs us to have 1 month, October, of nothing but hymns. You can't sing if you're not doing a hymn. You can't get up and do an offertory song. You can't get up and do a morning song. You can't get up and do a choir song unless it's in the hymn book. And you have to pull out the book because he believes in it. So the foundation, what brought us over, so much so. The same thing we do with those that are at my helm. And so I wonder post-pandemic, what will we do as leaders? Because we can say, it's in their hands, it's in their hands. But if you're in charge of a choir, if you're in charge of a group, if you're in charge of a praise team, you're at the helm. And so it's your responsibility to bring those things to life and to shut those other things down and teach it as the pastor said. And I'm done.
Right. Can I also just say one little quick thing? Can I just say one little quick?
Right,
sometimes with love and kindness, you can draw people to what you want them or need them to do. Sometimes it's not what you say, but it's how you say it or how you present it. And if we can present it in a fashion where you can get through to whatever age group it is, what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. Sometimes we can be a little bit too dictatorish, and that's a turnoff. So sometimes you have to use different techniques of how to get people to come in and harmonize with you and not be so one-sided. That's all I want to say.
All right.
Let me
And
chime in. Let me chime in because this is a whole subject for a whole panel by itself. Listen, Pastor Jones brought it up. I've always been caught in the middle, even back in when I started music. When everybody was doing choirs, when I started my group, I did chosen quote unquote praise team. I had 9 people, 9 of us, praise team. So you got to mute your mic because the camera keep going back. Everybody got to mute their mic while one is talking. And so what happens is, like Pastor Jones said, I would be frustrated at every music ministry job I had because the pastor did not allow me to appoint or to audition singers. Now, people in the conventional church, the traditional church, talk about choir, but as a young musician studying the Bible, I thought if I'm going to be responsible for the music, then you need to deputize me and give me the authority to handpick the singers. That's how I did. That's how it was done in the Bible. But what we do, we want numbers so bad until, we just let anybody join church. Where you want to work in the church after they receive the right hand of faith? Well, I want to sing in the choir. Well, most of them want to sing in the choir so they can have a seat on Sunday. They can't sing their way out of nothing. And
Bishop, do that at the funerals too.
Yeah, the frustration of a musician or minister of music is when you start your rehearsals and these new people show up, don't know what voice they sing, soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and then you discover the hard way you got to place them between 2 people singing in their ear. It's frustrating. So back to what Pastor Jones was saying, we've always should have had the privilege of handpicking and appointing singers, and then as needed. We're in a new day. Even when I travel, sometimes I couldn't take my choir. I took a select group, called it praise. When they talk about praise and worship, well, I've always done praise and worship. So I don't know why they're trying to brand this stuff new. But yes, Dr. Eloquent Weaver, I understand. The competition comes when the people that are allowed to serve as praise teams take on that attitude. And that's why when he brought, Pastor Jones brought clarity to it, when you got people that with the right spirit, humble, been taught, been trained, then you can merge the 2 ideas and your music department can work in harmony, okay? And we might have to come back and do part 2 on just all that, but I just want to interject that because it's so important for the pastors to understand. Let me say this and I'll be done with that. I still get calls, and I started what's called the Nicodemus Ministry, Pastor Jones, because they call me by night. They don't want folk to know they're calling me because they done messed up their music departments, hiring anything to be over their music, who are limited, and now they got problems. They don't have no organizational skills, no musical background training. They just want to play. They don't want to teach. They don't want to train. So you got multiple problems happening in our music ministry. And I think Brother Nye gonna move us to the next place. I just want to throw that in there.
I did want to say something. 30 seconds. 2 sides. It's the difference between talents and gifts. You got a lot of people that are talented, but they're not gifted to do what they think they do. Second thing is that the church is now under peer pressure because they are now trying to compete with what they think is the expectancy of what church is supposed to look and sound like. And so what we do is we watch all the Zoom services weekly to find out what the cliche churches are doing. And then we come behind it. And that's what we want to see on our Sunday because we want numbers. And so the competition comes because we create that world of this is what it's supposed to look like. every major church now, you don't see choirs. You see what's Tim Bowman Jr. He got Miranda Curtis on the stage with him and all professional background singers. And the pastor's like, why can't my church sound like that? Because they paying everybody on the stage $500 a piece. That's why your folk can't sound like that. So what happens is this: now the expectancy level of the praise team raises, and the choir is trying to compete with that expectancy. Like, don't forget about us. Yeah, baby, but you should be an usher. You should have been an usher on their birthday, but nobody told you. You know what I'm saying? Because mama lied to you and said you could sing at the age of 5, and you've been tone deaf all your life. But because nobody ever told you the truth, now you don't want to listen to nobody. And so, you know, but that's what we're at. That's the point we're at in terms of music. We're stuck in a situation that we are really fighting because the peer pressure, you know, we always talking about that, but the pastors are under peer pressure because in order for them to get their, not get their salary, but in order for the things to work inside the church, money got to be there, people got to be there, and that's what they're competing against. So the competition is not necessarily between the praise team and the choir, but it's a little higher. I'm done.
Dr. Denard.
Yes.
I think that Dr. Weaver said it best when he mentioned how Carol Cole would walk aside with the bishop, how they had a good relationship, basically is what he said. And I believe that when you have ministers of music that do have a good relationship with the pastors, they can build ministries. Now, of course, first, a pastor has to know how to hire competent leaders, but having a good relationship with the pastor, for those of us that are leaders in music, will say a lot to the music ministry. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Just like to, is there anyone else that would like to add to this question before we close it out and move on to our next question? Okay, just would like to make this statement. Please keep Dr. Dorgan James Needham in your prayers. You know that he was to be part of this discussion and serve as one of our moderators. So we want to mention that because truly he's one of the legends in gospel music. So keep him in prayer. Now we'll segue to this, our final question, and then Bishop will take us on from there. And that being, and we open this up to the panel at large. How do we bridge the generation gap between old school and new school musicians? Again, how do we bridge the generational gap between old school and new school musicians? And I will decrease so that Bishop can increase. So anyone can just jump right in on that question.
I think respect, learning, communication, open for all genres, not just one set, but again, that falls at the helm of the leader that's in charge of that choir and what's being expected of them. But if we are able to do old school and no school together, you know, create songs together, have a segment or a Sunday where choirs or persons come together, whether it be a trio or what have you, of different ages, there's a way that it can be done in the midst of our service.
Yeah, and I think while we're doing that, that bigger question to that is, do we want to bridge that gap? You know, how do we bridge the gap? Do we want to bridge? I look at myself now. I've been writing music for our church for quite a while, and I have a son now who is writing music and he's leading the congregation. And you know, I had to get to the point where I had to back off a little bit as a pastor and as a leader, because I don't want to restrict his gifts. And I know it's on him because I trained him to do what he's doing. So now I have to ask myself, do I want to reach that generation? You know, do I want to reach them? And if I do want to reach them, you know, I have to be willing enough to, okay, now let me hear them. And maybe if I can hear them, they'll hear me. And then maybe once we all come to the table with the voices, then we can create a sound that will be conducive to the main idea, which is to glorify God. So that bridging the gap between the old and new school, it can very well be done, but I think it starts with the old school. Do we want to bridge the gap? And if we want to bridge the gap, are we willing to see what the Lord is depositing in them? Because what I'm seeing coming from these young people, they all ain't crazy now. There's some giftings. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's like, whoa. And then, so I'm like, okay, no. Let me figure out how to bring them in and all that kind of stuff and foster them, love them, teach them. Because with the giftings, they need some wisdom. They need some guidance so they would not abort their blessings because they were covered the wrong way. And, that was one of the things that really kept me, maybe y'all don't know me, is because I stayed to myself on purpose, simply because I've seen how others ruin others. I've seen how others, held back other younger musicians. And I just didn't want that. I wanted everything God has for me. So now I have to love all of these. I have probably about 10 different musicians who just come to the church, who are not even part of the band, who just come to this environment where they are loved, where they're accepted, and I make them learn. I come in rehearsal every now and then. I say, all right, give me E flat, lift their voice and sing. God bless America. Different patriots, the hymns and all that kind of stuff. Because I teach, you need to make sure you be all things to all people. Be all things to all people. So in bridging that gap, we have to make sure we are ready to open our arms up to them and receive them. If we want to do it, and they will listen. You have a few hard-headed folks like we've always had. Some old people, they hard-headed right now. Want to get in the choir, want to do all this, and now where you hard-headed, go sit down somewhere. And your age does not make you the wisest thing in the world, but it takes the wisdom of the Holy Spirit and the knowledge of the Word of God to be able to really balance this thing and get yourself in position to bridge the gap, because it is He that has made us and not we ourselves. So God is gifting these young people with these gifts. I mean, these people are running circles around stuff like never before musically, and it sounds like beautiful. Some of it sounds like chaos, but some of it is really beautiful. So, so we have to really, make sure we love them first, love them first before we try to clean them. We got to catch them. Because the world's go get them if we don't.
Can I just
I was going to ask you this. Can we, with this question, and I'm just posing it to our young people that are out there. You got a Bishop Andre Woods that's sitting right here, and that's been trying to get us all to come to the music and fellowship and arts where we can come together. He's been doing it, I think, like for many years. Okay. Um, and that's a good platform for us. I just talked with them before a couple of weeks ago with some of the legends, of the living legends. I couldn't get them all on the show, but because some of you I should have had on there too, and I'll do part two. But if we could come together and get you all to come in and learn some of the basic material. I think what is the as we would say, the older people, we just want to share with you all and pass the baton graciously to you all so that you can continue on the legacy of the foundation of gospel music. There's nothing wrong with us. When we were younger in their age, there were our other peers that were older, but we were still learning from your Matty Mosses, and you're learning from your Lucille Lemons, and you were learning from your Frank Wrights, and so on. I'm sure that Reverend Bishop and all of them know that. And it got passed on because we were wanting it. I wanted to do Miss Lemons Miss Lemon took me to the side. I wanted her quickness. I wanted to learn how Winston Poe did what he did. I wanted his finesse and directing. Okay, I wanted to learn Lil Reggie's quickness and energy, movement with the Charles Spo singers. So when I watched them and studied them, and when I went to them, they were open enough to show me, don't do that, do that, and that's what made look, we was been crazy all along. But I had my own style to learn, but they didn't shun me off. So I think, but they were open and we had availability, different schools and stuff to do that. So if we can get something that Bishop Woods can give, and we can come together where we can share and take classes and learn, that would be a great start here in our city. Okay, that we would come and have classes. Young folks come, because listen, just like I still can learn. You know, some of these slangs my daughter's saying now, I didn't know what you mean, baby. Well, I now know they got another way of saying it. Just like these glasses now, they call them something else. In my day, they was gazelles. That was a gazelle. That was a gazelle style. That's what we did. But now I don't know what they call it. I just know it's big, you know, and I wanted it, okay? But they don't mean it is gazelle, because my daughter said that's not gazelle, daddy. So things change. So in order to change, maybe we can do like Bishop Pastor Jones. And see, his technique is different from pastors. He's teaching, okay? But some of these pastors, they don't play, so they can't teach. They just get the hottest musician that's hot. The kids have said, Daddy, the young folks, they can really play. Well, you come in and you talk to them, and that's it. But back in my day, if you can play Jesus Keep Me Near the Cross or whatever to match that service and whatever, that was important to them. So now things are different. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But I know it's a little different, and I know if the old school, maybe we can meet the new school medium, come there and let's get some classes, and then we can share. We, the older people, can learn, and then the younger people can learn too. I think that would be a great idea to start here in our Michigan area. That's just me.
I would like, may I say, I started a fellowship dinner some years ago with the intention of bringing older, younger, across denominational lines. And that was birthed from a conversation Alvin Waddles and myself was having. We were talking about how we all could always put everything on the back burner when somebody died. Here we come running to a musical and to talk good and give all the kind of accolades about the person that's laying before us that knows nothing about what we're saying. So we decided, why don't we get together as musicians, directors, singers, even it was open to pastors even, to come together just in a fellowship. I wasn't even trying to do a seminar at that time, just as a fellowship that we can just sit and have break bread together and you know do what am I trying to say? Coin from each other, you know, and go across the barriers and learn and talk to people. And it would serve as a I'm losing my word that I want to say, but you can communicate and make connections with other people, and maybe they know something that you need. For instance, if you're a person that's involved with a music store, if you come to this dinner, you might not know the person, but somebody else might know them, and they can say, oh, you know, so and so, you know, if you need another organ, they know how to get it for you. So, I mean, it was going to be a way. What I wanted it to be fun. I always said I didn't want it to be stuck up where you all had to come in your best Sunday go meet. We do that all the time. I wanted it to be relaxed, savvy, where you could come as you are. Nobody look, well, why are you in his jeans? If that's how you wanted to dress that night, well, nobody go put you down for dressing that way. The object was to just come together, fellowship, have fun while we all here. And even at that, and Andre can tell you, and some of you others that have come, Brooksy, I call you Brooksy, no different, no, but I've always called you Brooksy. And they've come to the dinners, and we've been missing our young people, and we reached out to the young people, but they would not come. I don't know what that was about. I've tried to embrace everybody. Okay. I can't say that I like everybody. I love everybody. Everybody don't get along with everybody. But I figure if we could come together and fellowship on that kind of thing, then we can branch off into some of the other things. But that didn't work. Same people would come. I would keep on asking, the young people to come. And for whatever reason, maybe I was the wrong person heading it. I don't know. They wouldn't come. So that's one way. I wish we could start just getting together, not always on a church level. How come we can't just fellowship sometime before somebody done died? And then here we come eating some chicken, lying, and all this. Let's just have a laugh sometime.
The question is about bridging the gap. And Auntie Carol, I agree with you. I say all the time, we'll go eat before we'll do anything else. And why not come together and have breakfast? I posed this for ever, saying, hey, let's go to breakfast. Let's go to breakfast. I've been saying that for years. I even wanted to do a Legends breakfast years ago before the Craig brothers passed away. That was something that I suggested, where we can honor our legends and honor our up and coming, just as you have done. But one thing I think is going to be key in order to bridge is that one thing that I've heard over the years is that they won't do like I'm trying to show them. I'm trying to show them how to do this and how to do this. Well, are you willing to learn from them? That's where the breakdown comes, because they say, well, okay, it's okay. I'll learn how to play Lord Keep Me Day by Day. But will you learn how to play, Tasha Cobb's new song? Or will you attempt it? And if you shut the door, so there's no give. There has to be some type of reciprocation there. And I believe that's where we're going to be able, once we say, I'm willing to learn from you, if you're willing to learn from me, it's got to be a give, not just.
But there is right on that point. I hear you, but all of us is not in that same basket. So we can't. So, and I'm not directing this towards you. I'm just saying in general, to whoever who's listening out there, when you say, oh, the older people won't listen to us, that's not true. Because some of us are open-minded and realize, just like I said earlier, I'm here to learn too, because none of us don't care. I don't care how many degrees and PhDs you have behind your name. You can learn something from a child.
Agreed.
And so I don't want to be in this category listed with the ones that think that, oh, you can't tell her nothing, or you can't say, oh, she go give her opinion, but she won't listen to you. No, I've never been like that. And a lot of us is not like that. Maybe we come off wrong. Maybe they had the wrong thoughts about us or whatever. But I want to show love to everybody. And I wanted us to be a city where we could fellowship. And when I see you in the street, I can say, hey, so-and-so. It's a whole lot of musicians that's young. I've been out of the loop a long time now that I don't even know that they were babies. Now they're grown adults and they play beautifully. And I'm like, where did you come from? You know what I'm saying? So that was my purpose, and some of that I wanted to coin from other people too. So that was my reason.
Can I add this this piece onto it, that in reaching those young people, it takes psychology and reverse psychology. It takes a certain kind of anointing. You have to be gifted and anointed to be able to reach these caliber of people. And then understand this. Look at now, we're on a Zoom thing. That was created by people who don't even know hymns. Look at what's moving our churches, technology that was created by folks who ain't studying about to be kept, and what's going on now, having to do the pre-recordings and take the service to Facebook Live and all. that was a major shift just in my mind that I said, well, Lord, have mercy, because I didn't know how to do that stuff. But it was the younger people said, no, Pastor, we got this, because they already feel as though they got a place with me because of how I bring them in. And the younger people, they're the ones that's creating the technology where we can even have a choir on Zoom, but they know nothing about 'tis so sweet to trust in Jesus. So we have to not come to them like dogs in the game. And I say this, when I was younger, one of the things that hurt me, my heart, was that if I wasn't with a certain group, I was always looked over. I saw a lot of wonderful, what we call legends now, who were very arrogant. And we don't want to talk, but I'm going to tell you the truth, because I was the little guy following behind my uncle, Robert Nix, and Elder Herman Harris, watching it all from the musicians and the pastors. And I used to always say, Lord, if I get that gift, please don't let me act like them. Let me be reachable and touchable to people, because I understand at the end of the day, the goal is to reach people, and we reach them by loving people. At the end of the day, because here's the truth matter, we're all legends in our own eyes. We're all legends in our own eyes. There's somebody out there that's better than each and every last one of us, and that's why I always say we have to try to figure out a way to always stay little, always stay a learner. And all of this shift that we're dealing with now, that's one of the things I'm working with pastors now. There's no way in the world your churches should not be doing nothing when the world is moving. The world has quickly pivoted, making adjustments to keep on moving. Why are you still at home? Why are you not doing anything? Are you not wise enough with the Holy Spirit to know how to wash your hands and how to put hand sanitizer stations in your church, giving stations in your church, making sure your health areas are together in your church? We have no excuses, especially when we have been called to be the light of the world. The world is really supposed to get their patterns from us, but it just takes us to really apply the scriptures and know that. And just in reaching them young people, we got to love them and not come to them as dogs, because they will not hear you. But if you use some psychology and reverse psychology, you can get them. The fellowship that you all tried to start, the different things that you did, that was cool. And maybe at that time, it just wasn't the right thing to do. And sometimes doing the right thing at the wrong time makes that right thing the wrong thing to do. And once they get into a point where, okay, now I need to learn this stuff. Now I need to do, okay, who's going to be the father? Who's going to teach me? Who's going to love me? And do it with some wisdom. They'll do anything you want them to do. And you will learn. I'm in the studio, they hit licks. I'm like, whoa, hold on. What was that? Show me. Man, that was sweet. I'm winning their hearts. So now it's easy for me to sit them down and teach them how to play Blessed Quietness, because I won that heart. And that's just like trying to win the lost for Christ. We got good bait, but we got to make sure we know when the fish are biting, and then go get them and get them with the love of Christ. And I want, at the end of the day, and I'll be done, as a leader in the church, it hurts me to see the issues in the music ministries all over the world. But I pray for the day when God can get total praise out of all of us, black, red, yellow, brown, giving that glory to God that is due to him, bringing heaven here down on earth. And that's the end result, to make sure we do things according to the scriptures, and God makes everything well. I'm done. I talk too much.
Thank you, guys. Dr. Trent, we want to hear from you, Dr. Clendenning, and then Brooksy. You three, and then I think we'll be ready to move on from there. But in that order.
I can say something real quickly, just piggybacking off of what everybody said. Actually, this has been very, very educational for me. Being primarily a musician, but a physician also, I just know that if you have honest conversations with people and ask them, is there anything particular that you want to know about tradition, about our culture? But there used to be a time when we had apprenticeships where in the job situation, you would take on somebody and they would learn your craft. And some of these kids, I mean, yeah, they're gifted in particular styles and ways. And all you have to do is have an honest conversation. And as a instructor, as a teacher, you just have to be persistent and patient, because they're not going to get it the first time. You're not going to draw in people the first time. It has to be a consistent thing. And eventually those people will draw towards you when they find out that you're doing something that's worthwhile.
Dr. Clendenning, are you still
Yes,
there?
I'm
Okay.
here. There's a saying that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that's what we have to demonstrate to young people, and being willing, as it's already been said, to listen as well on both sides. Both sides have to be willing to listen and be willing to learn. And there's a saying that in liturgical planning that we use, that you bring forth both old and new from the storehouse, and there's room for it all.
Brooksy.
All right. I would just like to say that I agree with most of what I've heard here this evening, and it has been very enlightening for me and enjoyable. But I would say that you do have to, first of all, you've got to see God's leadership, whether you're dealing with the young, the old, or the in-between. And I've had my challenges dealing with the younger people in the music ministry. Sometimes, well, one of the main things is sometimes the young people now can say to their parents, I don't want to go to rehearsal today. So you don't have them there to teach them or to even interact with them as you would want to, because they don't have to come. Some don't want to come. But when you do get a gathering of them, sometimes I do turn it over to them to tell me, what songs have you heard lately? Do you listen to gospel music on the radio? And most of them would say, yeah. Do you like it? Yeah. Well, I would challenge each one to bring me a song when you come back that you've heard that you would really like to do. And then I like to take the song and run through the text of it and relate it to the scriptures. Discuss whether or not is this something you really think we should do, and then we'll give it a try. And they feel inclusive in learning what I'm trying to teach. And I've had a little bit of success like that with them, making them think and realize that it's not just what I want them to do, but it's also doing with them some of the things that they want to do, but putting it in the right perspective. And I hope it'll get better one day, but we do. And I do make it a habit of whatever. I'm in with all kinds of music too, from classical to what my grandkids like to hear me play an old tune called Boogie Woogie. But I thank God that He has blessed me to be able to, whatever I've ever heard on the internet or YouTube, I've always been able to catch it and play it. And I know that's through the gift of God. So I don't have any problems coming to what you call the new music, no matter what the arrangement is. I've been blessed to be able to do it. And I thank God for that. So sometimes I can convince them that, no, that's not quite the right song for this service, but we're going to learn it and use it at the right time. So just have to stay prayed up, because God can only lead you through situations like that.
Thank you, panel, for your insightful input. And now we turn things over to Bishop Woods.
Let me
Bishop, are
say
you
this
there?
is, let me say this has been a wonderful evening. We have gone a little while and we don't want to worry everybody, but we're gonna have to edit this and chop this up into two settings on YouTube. But let me thank our panel, all of you, and our moderators. We give them their honor for sharing. Brother Anthony Howard and Brother Denard McClary, who have taken us through this time. We could go a whole another hour. I want to thank every one of you who've been on the panel. And I want to close with Pastor Jones specifically because I think Pastor Jones, I purposely wanted him on this panel because I think because he said he's in between both the old and the new, being 42 years old, and he's been around and he's seen uh, what it was like then and where we are now. And he's got a caption on it and kind of mastering some things that I have taken note of that I think is noteworthy. Um, because I believe, Pastor, you're one of the cutting edge pastors of our city and of our times to have done what you've done. You've taken a traditional church and your methodology of updating it, not losing the tradition, but building on the foundation that was left to you, that you inherited, not only musically, but also congregationally and with the church and the teachings and your mastery of music and putting in a studio. I mean, let's face it. We are in that time where most churches, if they had the wherewithal, and even the churches I work with in the past 10, 20 years, I told them then, y'all need to put a studio in your church. Stop paying all this high money to be on TV. Buy your own cameras and stop paying all this high production costs. You got people in your church, you got millennials in your church. You can get grant money to start an apprentice program in your church. I try to tell it to a couple people, but people hear what they want to hear. And now, like I said, the Nicodemus ministry, I got they call, want to know how to do this, how to do that, how to do that. Been telling you all a while. Now, the Fellowship of Music and Arts, we've sponsored many workshops that were free to the musicians when we wanted to have dialogue. And we've had a panel back in 2015. We had pastors and musicians, and we did exchange. I am where I am now because I want to ask Pastor Jones, what struggle has it been for you, or how did you make the transition in moving your church from the Williams Chapel traditional platform to where you are now, where the all age groups in your congregation are able to receive your leadership and your vision to forge forward in the 21st century and meet the needs not only of the past generation, the existing generation, but the generations to come. How have you done that? I mean, far as even your sanctuary and all the things that you've done. A lot of people are being negative. A lot of people are saying, we done turned the church into a club. We done did this, we done that. But on the other hand, when we would do concerts, we went and rented those kind of venues and paid big money. We went to Ford Auditorium. We went to McGregor. We went to all these places and we paid out money to those venues. Now you got the other churches, larger sanctuaries, as you notice, most churches, when they build now, they're building their churches to include all of the latest technology, television cameras, recording equipment. So how has it been for you to move your church and your music ministry to this place?
Well, Well, it's been a challenge, and it's been wonderful. You know, even today, I take it from the aspect of being a good steward. A good steward, when God gives you things in your hand, to whom much is given, much is required. It requires us to be good stewards. For example, you know, all of the changes that you see now, if people were really paying attention to us, we have been making changes for, I'm in my 23rd, for about 25 years now. We have been shifting, we have been moving, and every change, every moment of change, I taught it first. I taught it. You know, the last big hurrah was, you know, taking all the chandeliers out, you know, and I told him, I said, now we're getting ready to cut our bill down. And I know you like it, so this is what I'm gonna do. We're gonna take it down. I'm gonna box them all up. Those of you want chandeliers in your home, you can go take them. And we put LED recess lights in there. And my light bill, look at it, y'all. Our light bill has been cut in half. You know, it's a teaching thing. From the pews, you know, we took all the pews out. I took them out. It was costing so much money to keep those pews up. Those pews were old. Yes, people talked about me. His grandfather turned it all the way around. No, because before we got pews in that church, we had chairs in the church. That sanctuary had chairs in the church. Before there was pews, before it was carpet, we was on cement floor when the church was first built. But what it did, it saved us some money. Now we get to this pandemic piece. Now I have the privilege to really manage how many chairs I put on the floor, how many people I have there. And now it gives us the ability to be very creative and innovative on the type of services that we have. You know, for instance, last year in the middle of the pandemic, you know, we were all out. So we had a service called At the Table. And what I did, I brought our banquet tables all in the sanctuary, set it up as though we were going to a banquet. And I used to hear people say, because I talked about it in the vision, about the facilities being like that. And I got beat to the ground. I said, wait a minute, how is a problem? How is it that you have a problem about doing this, but you don't have a problem going to the National Baptist Convention to a banquet with a stage in front of it and a microphone, and you're eating while the message is being preached, different things. You know, when we got our lighting system in, you know, some of these lights, but wait a minute, these are the same lights that you sing up under when we go to the national conventions. What do you think light up the convention halls? You know, so these type of things. And then another thing that led to making the investment in the technologies, the studios and different, is because I got tired of going to Chicago every other month, trying to get a project done that still ain't got done. I got tired of spending out so much money. And my grandfather, I'll never forget the last time we went to Chicago and we sitting in the studio, I took him with me, took the whole church because I had to preach down there. And we actually did some work. And he said, why you can't do this at the church? And it hit, a light came and I said, we can. All that space. And so what I did, anytime we do any kind of construction, any additions, I teach it. And I'm the first one with the hammer because I teach that piece about Jesus' ministry as a carpenter. So what I did, I took our traditional Men's Day services and I said, you know, we don't have to just come in here and listen to a song and somebody preach to us. We've done that. And I got a greater response by the way we do Men's Day now, which is all the men coming in and we're breaking down, we're fixing up, we're breaking down, we're fixing up, we're breaking, and I have hundreds of men come out just to rebuild the temple. And it's all led biblically so. And so, you know, to keep shifting and keep moving, it comes from a desire to want more. It comes from knowing God, knowing that he is a universal God. It's God that is giving, you know, the Bible talks about everything, absolutely everything was created for God's glory. That's in Colossians. So it's a matter of taking these things. I look at it, I said, man, the Fox Theater is a beautiful place, but the Fox Theater should not look better than the church, not God's temple. You know, why am I going again, spend all that money to go to that theater when I can transform things, which actually will open up my ministry of arts now? Because I realized, even from my daughters, you know, these kids, you know, it's more to ministry work than singing in the choir. You know, now all of a sudden the dance explosion and the dance ministry exploded. Now we got the drama team. And then now, because they like these things here, these things, the number one ministry in the church now is our media ministry. Simply because this is the avenue that we have to use in order to spread the gospel. I always challenge that scripture in Acts when it says, after the Holy Ghost has come upon you, you shall be witnesses to all men all across the world. I used to always say, God, how we go get across the world? It costs too much money just to take a ticket, get a ticket from here to California. And you're talking about we going across the world? Now we have no excuse. And guess what? He put in the young people how to do this. And I'm 42. I'm taking lessons from these kids on how to do a live on Instagram, live on Facebook, just so that the church of the living God can move forward. But at the same time, it's a matter of being good stewards. Now, you know, we built that one studio, but guess what? Now the whole building is a studio. The whole sanctuary, any given time, we can come in there and press the record button right there in the sanctuary, which is now Studio A. Now, I look at this thing, we have more property, you know, big old school across the street. So now we're getting ready to turn the whole campus into studios, house into studio. It's a matter about being good stewards, utilizing what you have in order to make God look great. Make him look great. The world can't outdo us when it comes to producing. You know, that's why I commend Tyler Perry. Yeah. Now, he got land to do it. But he ain't the only one with land. But it's got to start here in the mind. And as a pastor, I got to make sure, hey, if I want to reach these people, I got to use the tools. I got to make sure our church doesn't look like a museum where people come back, oh, I remember, oh, and folks, and the funny thing about it, Bishop, is the majority of people who have problems with the changing, from the name changing, from the building, from the same, it's people who don't even pay tithe to the church, people who don't even go to the church. So, you know, I just laugh at them and say, God bless you. I love them, you know, but their problem is something that doesn't even pertain to them. You know, this is where we are. And if we do it in love, it's not arrogant, you know, not thinking we're better than anybody, but, you know, we do what we have to do. And it's always the arm to reach out to everybody else who want to be a part, you want to figure out how to do this. My arms, the doors are always open. Got a church coming in there tomorrow with their media staff to kind of see what is the tools from the cameras. You know, these big companies charging these churches arm and leg to bring cameras in this because they need them. But what happened is these pastors are just paying because they don't know. But I said, wait a minute. Pastor, I went to Best Buy and got 4 cameras. They're about 800 something piece. They 4K, high def, HDMI, everything you need on the iPad, everything. You have to not let these people sabotage us, you know, take our money. No, do your due diligence. And the way I learned it is through the young people. They said, Pastor, you don't need no camera. Really, you can do it from your phone. I said, what? You know, so, but it's continuing to evolve. And where we are now is to really, okay, what is the church going to look like tomorrow? What is the music ministry going to look like tomorrow? And we have to stay open to it and just seek God, seek him. He'll give us the direction and it's going to be all right. You know, what Darius talking about, the shields and like a spaceship. Hey, you know, and if that's where we are going, which we know we're going somewhere, we're getting ready to be purchasing automobiles that drive themselves. This is where the world, we're getting ready, the car industry is getting ready to push nothing but electric vehicles. This is where it's going. And everything that God allows to happen, he holds us accountable for making sure we continue to spread his word. Not so much the method, but the message. But taking all of the various methods, because you still got a remnant of people. You know, my church got about 4 or 5 different generations there that is well represented. So it's important that I make sure that I keep balance in the music, balance in my sermon deliveries. Sometimes I'm a preacher 3-point in the close. Sometimes I'm just going to teach. Today's experience was not the traditional experience, but things are done on purpose because we're trying to reach all people, trying to reach them all. And that's what it is. And it's been a struggle. It's been a task. But great men do the hard work. Great men do hard work, and God has been faithful to us, Bishop, and those of you. God has been faithful to us. And I would really encourage you to go revisit pulling together some type of schooling or conference environment where we can bring those young people along with the older ones who's still alive. Bring them together. Maybe somebody has to be the bait. Maybe I have to be the bait. It don't matter, to bring them together, because again, at the end of the day, you know, there's a piece that we have to portray. There's a piece that we have to put together on purpose so that God won't hold us accountable for not being what we needed to be to this generation that's coming along now.
Oh man, we appreciate you. That's for being so transparent. And we're at the end now. I mean, the hours far spent. I know people saying, "Ooh, they going on and on," but this has been so enriching, and we have committed ourselves that we're going to do follow up with every one of you, and somewhere in the next few months, we're going to figure out a way to structure a classroom on Zoom or Facebook Live, some kind of way. We have to probably do series and something in stages. Where on one day we present this, one day we present that, and it's so good because we need all of you with your sphere of influence, where we can combine together, and those that I can reach, those that you can reach, we'll try to bring them in, and whatever assistance they need, I am certainly committing myself to do that because I want to see it move on, and I want to do for them, Pastor Jones, what was done for me back in my day. I didn't just come here knowing all this stuff. I mean, I ain't gonna even start talking about it, but I just had great mentors and those who pushed me on and pushed me out there. So thank you again, and thank you to those of you. I didn't want to start getting into all the comments, but we've got some people that have chimed in and have commented and shared all kind of helpful thoughts. Now know that you're going to be able to look at this on YouTube. What we're going to have to do probably for those of you don't like long videos, this is about a couple hours long or so. We probably edit it, cut it in part 1, part 2, and make it available to you. But we want to thank every one of you for your participation, and thank our moderators again. And again, like Brother Denard said, let's continue to pray for our senior, Dr. Dorgan Needham, that God would touch and heal his body, and all of those who've been touched by sickness or illness. All right, we're going to pray and we're going to be out for this time. Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for these who have counted not robbery to sacrifice of their time, to lend their voices, God, that we might share. And we pray that the information has been shared, God, will fall on good ears, good ground. And those that have heard, God, will take it to heart. Let this information go to revelation and cause transformation, even for their lives. And all of our musicians, all of our minstrels, all of our singers and directors, God, we pray for them. We pray that you will continue to anoint them afresh, that as they go forth to write songs and to do music in ministry, God, that you will get the glory out of all that we say and do. And we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you guys for joining us, and look forward to what we're going to do next. with the Fellowship of Music and Arts and what we're going to present. Thank you so much. Good night.
Goodbye and thank you.